Now we have a truly inspiring session lined up. You'll hear from 3 visionary customers progressing through unique transformations: digital, agile, and operational. Our speakers will share what drove their journeys, the challenges they overcame, and offer practical insights you can apply within your organization.
That's right. And so I have the pleasure of bringing up to the stage Tanya Buffet from Corwell Health. So put your hands together for Tanya. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have some fans, it seems.
Yes. Some other Michiganders in the audience. Woo! Yeah, Stryker. And I think Huntington, too. So thank you for having me today. Today, my discussion is going to be about our journey. A journey where we haven't arrived yet, but we're certainly on the right path, I believe, and it's been confirmed over and over again. So what you're going to hear, I think, is some repeats of what we've already talked about, but hopefully for those of you also on this journey, it's confirmation about where we're going. So first, let me start with a little bit about Corwell Health, because context matters in this conversation. Corwell Health is a relatively new organization. We were formed in 2022 through the merger of 2 large health systems in Lower Michigan, Spectrum Health and Beaumont Health. And as you can see on the slide, this gives you a sense for how big we are. We are the largest employer in Michigan. We have over 65,000 employees, 21 hospitals across the Lower Peninsula, over 12,000 physicians and APPs, over 16,000 nurses, and 5,000 hospital beds. We also have a health insurance company, Priority Health, with 1.3 million members. So this organization is new, and show of hands of how many folks in the audience have gone through a merger and acquisition of some sort. Okay. So as you know, when you have 2 large companies coming together, and they were about equal size, very different cultures, very different systems. And so as we step into our Planview journey, I want to set some more context, and that is we had a very ambitious enterprise technology plan to get on foundational platforms. And Planview was a huge part of that. So we quickly, within 2 years, got on a single ERP, a single electronic medical record system to run all of our hospitals. And as you can imagine, we have all of these hospitals and physicians and nurses coming together across 3 regions, and now they share systems. They share one EMR, they share one ERP. And so those shared resources are quite a challenge when you're looking at demand and how we need to uniquely support regions, yet keep things consistent and balance our resources. So as we step into this, we decided on Planview, portfolios, and agile place as a foundational element to our new organization. And I would describe this operating model that we put in place, because neither organization had anything that could scale, as the starting point for that journey. And as you can see, it starts with annual planning. I love our strategy and finance partners, but they are still in an annual cycle. And so this story is also about meeting people where they are. So that annual planning that happens feeds 2 parts of our operating model. The middle part we call operational alignment. Think of this as continuous improvement of services throughout the organization. They aren't large books of work. But then the project prioritization is really where our portfolios happen. That's the large strategic investments and things that aren't strategic, things that are operationally needed. But they're large books of work that need to be prioritized and need to be viewed within the organization and across the entire organization. So I think really critical to our journey was the operating model was set up with 5 enterprise portfolios. For simplicity, I only showed 3. But we have 5 enterprise portfolio that cover our entire organization. And underneath those are value streams. So an example of a value stream for us is hospital operations. We have one EMR, right? Shared resources, and that hospital operations value stream has 3 regions that are piping demand into it. When we set up the structure, we set it up in a way that showed combined services that we're delivering, like hospital operations. And we set up governance at the value stream level and at the enterprise portfolio level. So for example, we have 3 in the box when you talk about making decisions in this area, 3 regional leaders, all with hospital operations needs. Some of those needs are across all regions. Some of those needs are unique. And so we have to do prioritization within that value stream. But the wonderful thing is that they share the same resources. So we do funding and we do resources at this level. And as you can see, about 80% of the decisions are happening at that level. And then at the enterprise portfolio level, we have about 20% of those decisions. Those are things that cross portfolios. We really try to keep teams in a value stream, but as you know, sometimes they do cross portfolios. And then our senior leadership team is really setting the strategy. The other thing I will say about this model is we have 3 types of work. We have strategy, which is top down. We have operational elective, which is really at that operations layer, a lot of it being at the value streams. And then we have run, and we're incredibly protective of our run capacity in IT. That is the capacity we need to upgrade our systems, keep things modern, doing all of the security patching that we need to do. So in those 3 buckets, the operational and the run are really happening at that value stream level. It's closer to the work. And then the strategic items are coming down from the top. And the beautiful thing about portfolios is the way that we've set it up, we can show all of the work with the same reporting. You're going to see an example of one of our, I'll call it views, because I have dashboard on the slide, but now Louise is here and I don't want her to see it. But we have the same view for every value stream, and then we have an identical view for a portfolio, and we can do the same thing for a strategic initiative. So those strategic initiatives really go across this entire structure, right? When we have an initiative like transforming care, the models of care, it could hit many, many portfolios. And so with Planview, we've been able to set it up in a way that we can create a work portfolio for that strategy. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. The other thing that the portfolios and Agile Place combination has allowed us to do is reconcile our ways of working. As you know, when you have organizations come together, we had one side of the organization that was really further along on the Agile journey, and then the other hadn't even started. So imagine now we have combined teams, some leadership, and we have very different ways of working. So we really needed to meet people where they were, and what I love about Planview and about Agile Place is that it does have the flexibility to meet your teams where they are. So we have safe trains, so scaled Agile framework. We have about 14 trains. We also have independent Agile teams that don't need the train structure. And then we have some traditional teams. And we'll always have some traditional teams, and that's okay. But what we've been able to do was, through that governance structure I showed you, the enterprise portfolios and the value streams, create roadmaps of both projects and Agile epics that then can be executed at that lower level with multiple styles of working, all pointed to the same thing, which is amazing. You can have a project that needs a train, that needs an independent Agile team, that needs a traditional team. And we've been able to stitch it together so they all can tie to that item on that roadmap. And the beautiful thing for my teams, because I also have application and development teams, is I can show a team member, you are finishing a feature in Agile Place, and I can trace it all the way back up to that strategy. And the connect to purpose moment there is really important. Your teams can actually see how they're delivering on the vision, mission, and the values of the organization. So I just encourage you to think about that when you're looking at how you deploy these platforms, the flexibility that you can have. So this is my view. It's not a dashboard. I'm going to rename it. But this is custom. And this looks super simple, right? But I will tell you, this is an example of a value stream that I am the owner of. I own this value stream. It's for corporate shared services. It's for like the ERP systems, time and attendance, you know, all those sexy back office systems that I get to manage. This shows you really, and we have the same pane of glass for every single value stream and enterprise portfolio and strategy. It's consistent. But it shows me that in my book of work, I'm about 50-50 between the things that I'm running in a purely Agile way and the things that I'm running in a project, a more traditional way. And then what I love is the life cycle. It shows me how is my pipeline going. Do I have too much building up in a funnel or in reviewing? This is actually, for me, a very nice distribution, just based on historic data that we have. And I don't want too many in implementing, right? If you have too much work in process, you aren't getting anything done, right? So I watch this pretty closely, and we, again, have this view all the way up the organization. Our new COO, when we were putting together a quarterly QBR, he's like, I want that visual. I want that visual on the QBR, because he's watching that throughput as well. So it's so powerful. And then the other thing you see is we have statuses. And more than just showing, well, you got this many in red, you got this many in yellow, what I love about this view, and it's very traditional, I realize, but it shows you why at a high level. And then, granted, I've taken out the project and the Agile Epic names, but you can click right from this dashboard, go right into the full details of that. It's incredibly powerful. And my CIO has asked for this view, and he literally goes and uses it and then shares it with his other peers and with our CEO. The other thing I will say is that using the system, we've heard it several times, we did this. When we went live with Planview and got everything in the system, I went and presented to our COO, or our CEO and her leaders, and I said to them, I'm not going to show you PowerPoint today, I'm going to show you the system. And the powerful moment there is that your teams are spending all this time updating and keeping everything up to date, the risks, the issues, all of that. If you are using the system to then present the data, they see the connection to the work that they're doing. It's saving them a ton of time not having to put together PowerPoints. I know we've said this before, but it's an incredibly powerful moment. So what you don't see here is we have several more tabs on this view, and we have the Gantt chart of like all the projects across the timeline. We have risks, we have issues. It's a really nice single pane of glass for people to see how things are operating. And again, I'm not wasting time on PowerPoints anymore. So lessons learned, things I would, I did not expect the claps on that, but right, PowerPoint wastes so much time. So lessons learned, the things that I would say is that, I think somebody said it earlier, we, with the best intentions, brought everybody to the table when we were doing the request form, and everybody got everything they'd ever want about a project in that request form. And it created a real barrier to entry into the system with all these well-intentioned people. We actually ended up printing it out in Word, and it was 7 pages. So if you're trying to get somebody to adopt a system and you hand them 7 pages worth of information that they need to fill out, it's not going to happen. So we've quickly pivoted because that was ridiculous, we realized. And we did an exercise with some key stakeholders and got it down to a single screen on the computer. You don't even need to scroll. So very simple, high level to just get them in the system, get those requests in the system. Because again, you aren't going to get capital at Corwell Health, and you're not going to get shared resources unless you get into Planview, which is incredibly powerful in and of itself. So we reduced the information we're asking for at the beginning, because quite frankly, when you're going along that life cycle, you're refining it anyways. To pretend you know everything at the beginning is a waste of everybody's time. So we say, get it in there with the best of the knowledge that you have, and then we will partner with you to refine it as we go. The second thing I would say would be data. Clean your data before you go live. When we went live in February of 24, sorry, we, a lot of people thought they cleaned up the data, and then they did not. And the teams that went in after go live and really spent the time cleaning up everything, because we interfaced Jira into Agile Place, a lot came over from Jira that was just cluttering the system. It made it unusable. And so the teams that really spent the time to clean up the data got value out of the system very quickly. And then I had some laggards that simply didn't have time, but they were struggling. Because the other thing we really did was go full in on Agile costing. And if your data isn't clean, Agile costing will give you results that maybe you don't want, or it creates, back-end fixes that you need to do. So we're going live with a phase 2 in a couple of weeks, where we're bringing all of capital planning in and rolling out some OKRs and things like that. And with that, I'm locking people in a room for 2 days to do data cleanup, because we can't do it after the system's live, we have to do it before. So clean up your data, it's hugely important. The third thing is invest in your team. We partnered with Planview when we set up, this is a brand new platform for us, set up the team to support it. And we took their recommendation, invested in the team. And the other thing we did was we added a full FTE just for reporting and analytics. Sometimes this gets forgotten about or it's deprioritized. That has been a game changer for us. So we trusted Planview, went with the recommendation, and now we have a pretty robust team that's fully supporting the platform. So I hope this was helpful this morning. This is part of our journey. We have not yet arrived. We need to do Planview Me still. We're going to be doing the capacity and resource planning soon, or ICP. And so that's part of our journey. And if you have any questions, just let me know. But thank you.
Tanya. That was excellent. And to close out our customer showcase, I'm going to bring up to the stage Penny Segromo and Andrew Taylor from Sun Life. Put your hands together for them.
Couple of questions for you before we start. How many of you have checked your phone in the last 30 minutes? How about, raise your hand, how about called an Uber in the last couple of days? Or used ChatGPT or Alexa? Look around. This is how we live today. Connected, immediate, and digital. And yet, we go back into our workplaces, and it feels like we are in a different world. And we should really be expecting the same speed and technological convenience at work. But sometimes it's a completely different world. At Sun Life, we are a 160-year-old company, and we are focused on operating like a digital company. We're redefining portfolio management in this to meet our value delivery and meet client expectations. We have brought together our business and IT teams, and we are here to adopt, innovate, and elevate our strategy to be at the forefront of our industry. Just over 5 years ago, I remember we were in a boardroom talking about our strategic initiatives, and of course, we're talking about the triple constraints: time, scope, cost. And our CIO asked, but what is the value we're delivering to our clients? Silence. There were a lot of reports, some dashboards, but we struggled to articulate the value. And that moment was our wake-up call. Then, a couple of weeks later, I received a memo from our CIO. She asked for our entire global portfolio. How many initiatives in Asia, US, Canada? How many were green? How many were red? What is the methodology that each of them were part of? And what is the ROI that each one of those initiatives was bringing? And I thought at that moment, do I create panic and go to all the different PMOs across the organization and ask for all their updates? Or am I just going to be honest with her and let her know that it's going to take me a couple of weeks to get her that information? And of course, Penny being Penny, was very honest. And I told her, we don't have that information at the tip of our fingertips. We'll need a couple of weeks. And that was the change we really needed to take. So in 2020, we embarked on a bold digital transformation journey, and our mission was to become more client-centric and ensure that our client voices was at the center of everything we do. We challenged norms. We shifted from time, scope, cost to outcomes, value delivery, and client feedback loops so that we can accelerate this. And what did we do? We pivoted our PMOs, shut down a lot of the BU PMOs, and have one BG PMO at each of the levels, and we transformed them to VROs, their value realization offices. Now, let me be very clear. This was not just a name change. Rather, this was a very bold shift: mindset, operations, and outcomes. And we moved from projects to platforms, journeys, and product-oriented thinking. And our goal was to improve the value, increase cycle time in the organization, and really empower our employees to adopt new ways of working that exemplify agility and speed. So the conversation around the leadership table really started to change. The leaders started to ask different questions, with us focused on value and client feedback loops. And what happened was that the lines between our business and IT were blurring, and it made this integrated approach absolutely critical. We were in one of the workshops one day, and a veteran PM said, I have been perfecting project management and delivering on budget and cost for 15 years. Are you telling me that that's not enough anymore? And you know what? He was right. We were asking our team members to fundamentally shift their ways of work. And this transformation was not easy. We had to redefine processes, and we had a collaborative environment where we shared OKRs, and also success was redefined now. And we moved from celebrating project completions to celebrating client outcomes. We also, our leadership team, stopped asking, is it done? And started asking, does it matter? One of our collaboration teams, when they were once sitting in silos, they were now collaborating around journey maps and user stories. Our physical walls came down, and there were real invisible barriers between the departments. And one of the developers at the time said, for the first time in my career, I actually spoke with a client last week. I finally understand why the feature I'm building matters. And our real breakthrough was we aligned our value realization office with our strategy, finance, and execution teams. The hub and spoke model, we share standards, best practices, and even OKRs so that we're all aligned across the board. But I have to tell you, the real magic was bringing real-time client feedback into our planning cycles. Now, there was a mobile team, and we noticed on our mobile app that clients were abandoning their transactions at a certain point in our transaction. And in 2 weeks, the team went in, they identified the issue, they fixed it, and then we noticed that the completion rates jumped by 40%. Now, this was the power of how our new approach, we were seeing value creation as a continuous flow rather than a series of discrete projects. I will tell you that some of our profound change was not in our process or our tools, but in our people. So one of our team members, Kim, she's been with the organization for 35 years and said that for the first time, I feel like my work directly impacts our client lives. I'm not just documenting requirements anymore, I'm helping design experiences that matter. Her words truly captured the essence of our journey, and that was reconnecting our purpose, our people, with our purpose. Now, I will tell you, like all of you, our journey wasn't without challenges. And same as Roger, and same as what we heard over the last couple of days, we truly underestimated the power of the change. The game changer, however, was our sponsorship from our CIO and CFOs for the VRO concept. There was strong support, and the change has been steady, impactful, and I will say it's been ongoing. But fast forward to today, we've streamlined our global processes, but we've also introduced Planview. Now, what Planview has helped us do is that continuous improvement in how we work. It has helped us redefine our processes, our mindsets, so that we can focus on what matters the most. And it's really supported Sun Life in its digital leadership journey and our ability to operate like a digital company. I owe Planview a lot. They've been with us for the entire journey, and I'm very thankful for it. And I'll tell you, are we finished? Far from it. Transformation, is it ever complete? But we've created an organization that can evolve at the speed of our clients' expectations. And our journey from a PMO to a VRO is a real testament to what's possible when our organization commits to a value-centric approach, improving the strategic alignment, increasing agility, and enhancing the cross-collaboration and a more flexible approach to project management. So because we've all been talking about change management here, I'd like to show you a video that we've created for the organization to help support our journey. And then I'm going to pass it over to Andrew Taylor, who is our product manager for Planview. Let's see the video.
At Sun Life, our ways of working are evolving, and our clients' expectations are rising. Speed of delivery is critical, and making timely, data-driven decisions has never been more important. To stay competitive, we needed a solution that eliminated outdated status reports, scattered spreadsheets, and disconnected conversations. A solution that would bring everything together from strategy to execution in a single connected space. That's why we brought Planview to Sun Life. It will allow us to do all that and more.
Planview is a game changer. Real-time insights, full transparency, and the ability to ask better questions. We finally have the visibility into what truly matters.
Planview will revolutionize our productivity by bringing everything into one place, giving us the clarity, the speed, and the insights we need.
Now I can see my PI planning and delivery progression in a single location, linked directly to BU strategy OKRs.
Now, it's easy to prioritize customer value by pivoting with certainty and adapting instantly to changing market conditions. You can focus on what matters most, because work is aligned with strategy and connected to key results. You can eliminate surprises by spotting gaps, dependencies, and predicting bottlenecks before they slow us down. You can visualize work with complete transparency across teams, journeys, platforms, and initiatives. And with centralized data, dynamic reports, and global standardization, using Planview will ensure higher productivity, delivering the future of connected work here at Sun Life.
Now we can make better, more timely decisions, pivoting when necessary to deliver client value faster and to operate like a digital company.
And yes, sometimes they ask if I work for Sun Life or Planview.
I'm good.
You're okay?
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Excellent. Okay, just a little bit of context to the video that you just saw. So, and I'll provide a little bit more when I get into the change management, but this was a video in a series. We first started out focusing on the what and the why with Planview. So we built a bunch of videos at the very beginning that talked about what it is, why we're using it. We then transitioned midway through our implementation and started focusing on what the future was going to bring. And then this video is part of a series around Now We Can. I don't know if you could hear it well enough with the testimonials, but they're basically users who are now in the system benefiting from it, eliminating PowerPoints, say goodbye to Miro, and they're truly have embraced the solution. So we wanted to have our business units, we wanted to have our customers internally talking and focusing on this is what it's doing for us. And we really wanted to make sure that the videos were very impactful. And because our team was small doing the implementation, we can't be everywhere. So we wanted to make sure all our videos were this quality being built so that they could be used in town halls, specific meetings, and have that speak for itself when we couldn't be in front of our internal clients. So that being said, I also want to provide a little context. So when Penny is out working on the digital transformation, moving the PMO to a VRO, I was in my happy space. I was working on an enterprise agile platform implementation. We were about 4 months into it. Things were going really, really well. And then the day, unfortunately, Penny walked into my office and basically said, we need to change. I've got new requirements for you. And the new requirements were, as Penny mentioned, we need to bring all the data together, and not just the agile community that I was focused on, but our traditional waterfall community. So thought about it, didn't sleep for a while, and said, okay, the solution that we were currently working, it wasn't going to work. We were very familiar with Planview. We did have, as you can see on screen, we do have change points, so we knew the product. And we thought, okay, we really need to look at Planview and do a deep dive. So long story short, we did a 20-day technical trial. We brought in our strategy team, our agile teams. We brought in finance, the portfolio, and the project community. Spent 20 days. At the end, we knew, okay, this is going to work. It seems to be everything that we're going to need to be able to meet all of Penny's requirements. And this was our release strategy. Now, here's the dilemma. It felt like we finished the evaluation on a Friday, and then we signed a contract on a Monday, and then we had to do an implementation on a Tuesday. So because of that, we quickly realized change management was going to be absolutely critical. And I know we've heard change management here a few times. I almost wanted to jump up and bring a change management slide up when we heard it earlier, but it's absolutely critical for us. And our biggest dilemma was I didn't have any time to go out and socialize the who, what, when, where, why of why we were doing this project. We froze it, and now we're implementing not an enterprise agile solution, but a strategic portfolio solution that would encompass everything. So for our strategy for change management, the release management was also critical. So we thought, look, I don't have a game plan for this yet. We got to get going. So we had 4 instances of ChangePoint globally. So we thought, let's focus on that first. Let's get that 6,000 user community off the system, get them into portfolios. It allows us to start building out the brand. More importantly, it allowed us to build a global working team. So I met a lot of people I'd never worked with before. So while we did that first release, it allowed us to basically establish our culture, our norms, how we were going to work. We also got to learn how Planview works with their implementations. And then, as you can see on the screen, this was the next set of releases. The other reason why we went with the moving the 4 instances of ChangePoint from into portfolios was it allowed us to really focus on dealing with our agile community, because this is where we're going to be the major impact. Change management for ChangePoint was pretty simple. It was, you did time tracking and projects in this system, now we just have a new interface. Whereas with our agile community, as you can see, some standards, integrations with tools, we were going to rock their worlds. They thought it was going to be in a negative way. We knew it was going to be positive. As you saw from a testimonial, I think we were right. Strategies and OKRs and back end, you've heard why everybody's going there. So what I want to do is just very quickly focus on the change management piece. So while we were doing release 1, we built out the plan. So what are we going to do at the strategy layer, leadership, organizational, people, tech? These are just some of the things we did. We did a lot more. And the ones in gold are really the things that really helped us the most. And I'll just talk about a couple of them. So that global steering committee, because we had a global working group, because each of our business groups are very, very different, different ways of working, different standards, different needs, we knew there were going to be times when we were making decisions on how to set up and configure, change our new ways of working, new processes. We were going to run into impasses. And what we didn't want to do is have conflict and strife within the working group. So we thought, let's put together a global steering committee. When we ran into challenges and we needed decisions, we could bring it to that team. They could make those decisions, and then we could go back and talk to our business users and say, these were the decisions that was made, as opposed to a few people on the left versus a few people on the right trying to battle it out, because we knew this was going to be a long journey and we just couldn't afford to have that conflict at that level. The other thing we did is we brought in a change coalition globally. So as we were implementing change management and executing on these strategies, instead of it always coming from me and our working group, we wanted the messaging to come from within region, so that as we built standardized information, standardized templates, communications, we wanted it to make sure it was properly localized so that we weren't basically offending the regions. We had to be very, very sensitive that, 160 years kind of set in our ways, so we had to be a little bit diplomatic there. And specifically, the Change Coalition was great because they were hearing why we're doing the change from people who they trusted, as opposed to, well, who's Andrew back in Canada? CIO leadership meetings. This was going to the CIOs on the global basis. What we wanted to do there was, this was just like a one-on-one going, what are you hearing from the teams? How are things going with the implementation? And they would be like, yeah, we heard this is a disaster, this is going well, yada, yada. And then we had the ability to have those heart-to-heart say, look, here's our perspective versus your perspective. Here's some of the messaging we need you to help us with course corrections and that. And then also that feedback also helped us change on the dime. One of the last things I'm going to talk about is this thing called a Confluence site. From day one, we knew we were behind the 8 ball with all of this. We didn't have a chance to build a formal plan, doing our first analysis and that. So what we wanted to do was, we knew people globally were going to be parachuting into this project on any given day over a year and a half. So everything that we did, we documented, and every meeting we had, we recorded. So every demo that Planview did, we recorded, published this to the site. Our working meetings with Planview, we published to the site the videos. When we did configurations, everything was there. So when we got into these different negotiations between here's how we work versus what Planview was recommending, all that stuff was recorded. So we probably had a couple hundred videos that were available over the period of 4 months. And then we built some back-end AI tools that would then go through all those videos and start scrubbing out, helping us build training, technical materials, a lot of FAQs on why we made decisions in that. Last thing I'm going to say with this, because I'm not sure if I'm out of time or I actually have another 5 minutes, but the demos. We really struggled. Like, Planview did a great job coming in, talking to leadership, showing, hey, here's an example of what the tools could do. And while it generated excitement, we didn't really get exactly what we were looking for. So while Penny mentioned we had the executive level support, there was still some skepticism about, is this really going to give us what we were looking for? So when we finally got some of the tools in the system, in a sandbox, first thing we did is we started just putting some basic Sun Life data in. And that really started to make a difference, because then our leadership could kind of relate. And then when we went down to the business level to get them ready, and I'm going to be very clear, for us, this was perceived, you know, hey, it's another technology-driven initiative. We didn't ask for this tool. What are you doing? We really had to change our thoughts around that. And what we basically did here was we went into all the executives in each of the business lines, and we did demos specifically with their data. And rightly or wrongly, whether or not it was good data or bad data, it really hit home with them. And they, you know, like, we're very much a PowerPoint spreadsheet organization at the time. So that really was the final selling point. So over the implementations, you know, once they were going in, looking at dashboards which should not be named, that struck home. You know, we're in situations where leadership is providing data and reports that sits there for a month before it's actually reviewed, as opposed to now they're seeing it, you know, in real time within a 24-hour data refresh. So last but not least on this, we also took a very much of a fail-fast, fail-safe mentality. We knew, because we were going so fast, we were probably going to make some mistakes. Everybody was, you know, skeptical around how fast could we go. So when we did the Agile release, this was Jira, it was ServiceNow integrating with Agile Plays and then connecting up into portfolios. We picked a few good Agile release trains who were very keen, and what we did is we implemented. We got them on board, they kicked the tires, they started using it, we moved them into production, and then they made a ton of recommendations on how better to do this. So we basically, over a period of bringing in a few different early adopters and having this mentality of, we're not going to get it right the first time, but we are going to trust that we're moving in the right direction. That whole concept of fail fast, fail safe allowed us to streamline our implementations. And on the previous slide, you would have saw there was 500 Agile teams, and it's gone from being challenging for a team to implement to very streamlined, very easy, with little to no resistance. So again, this was really our change management strategy. This is what we did, how we got organized. The other thing I'll say is we did release one within 4 months. That was getting everybody off of ChangePoint. A month and a half later, we started onboarding into Agile Place, and then Portfolios was done and implemented, with all said and done within about a year. Today, we're in the middle of an enterprise architecture implementation. Our Agile community was so excited about Agile Place for planning. We've also deployed the enterprise roadmaps. And I will say we have a select group of teams that are very niche in our industry around real estate, legal, and some of our doctors. So we're now onboarding them into Project Place. I'm just bringing it up. Everybody I've talked to, the first thing they say is, oh, what tools are you using? So this was our repertoire. Anyway, I'm probably over time, but I haven't been yanked, but thank you. That's us.